What is Marinations? Marinations is a nutritious stew of nature, culture, and ideas. Marinations is TV that thinks it's radio. Thus, we have a TV with a radio in it. Marinations is a magazine under the covers. Basically, Marinations at its heart is radio with pictures. Hello and welcome to Marinations. My name is Sharon Skolnick-Bagnoli. This season, Marinations is introducing you to some everyday heroes and local treasures. People whose efforts and intentionality have an impact on those around them. People like you. I'm here with Jayne McPherson, poet, poetess, poet. You have to wonder about those terms. Do you see yourself first and foremost as a poet?
I do.
What other work have you done and do? You teach, right?
I do. I teach actually creative process as a healing modality through journal writing and writing poetry. Mm-hmm. And also I teach as a substitute teacher through the schools. And sometimes we have a chance actually to do poetry.
In the school,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I once was a substitute teacher in Oakland and for a few days, and we did a little newspaper the few days that I had them, and I had them interviewing the principal and the teachers, and it probably shook the whole place up, but that's what I knew how to do at the time. So what do you write about? What kind of things?
My passion is how the arts are a healing tool for change and just growth, you know. I came from a very dysfunctional background, and honestly, I don't know if I'd be here today if I weren't creatively motivated to express things that just were unexpressible in any other way than through the arts.
What is it that brought you to art, or how did you discover that it was there for you?
Gosh, that's a really good question. It just happened. It was kind of osmosis. Mm-hmm. I think for some people that have an innate gift, it just is something that comes about in osmosis. And I just woke up in the middle of the night writing, and I think I was 13. But also, arts are something that can be cultivated, and most of my skill has been cultivated. I have a master's degree from San Francisco State, a bachelor's from Carnegie Mellon. I studied with Jerry Costanzo at Three Rivers Press, which is a very well-known press. And so I've had the cultivation from the best, and that has been phenomenally important in terms of honing my skills and taking myself seriously as an artist, keeping in practice.
Can you share something with us right now? Something you've written?
I'd love to share something. If you have a request, I mean, I can go into the healing aspect of writing. I can go into the humor. If you have a special request for...
Well, I noticed before the papers were shuffled, the first one said, would you choose to adopt, or something like that. And I thought that was a very interesting title, so if you can find it, I'd love to hear that, but you don't have to do that first.
Yeah, I belong to an adoption support group, and it has been a very important aspect of uncovering a lost aspect of myself.
Were you adopted?
I never got adopted, but I was in an orphanage. So they kind of got a little bit ahead of me, because people who've been adopted, they know a little bit more about belonging, and I know a little bit more about abandonment than they do. But it all works out in the mess of it, and it's just been a delightful uncovering of an aspect of myself that I really had lost and forgotten. So yeah, it's called Would You Adopt? And actually this was written when my sister died, And I suddenly got an aha moment that I was the last sibling to be alive that was orphan in the orphanage. So when my sister Sharon died, it just went, wow. And it occurred to me that I was the last surviving sibling at that point. Mm-hmm. And so I did write it's just a very healing experience, and it gives you that sense of being centered, not so shaken by events and things that happen. Would you adopt the moon full of piss and vinegar shining through 3 studio windows as your body leaned into each pane to test the distance of desire? This eve of my killed sister's memorial, how the blast of light yellow roses resists levitation beside her musical hair, taps time to elusive home. When Michelangelo said art is an endless search for a deeper meaning, he couldn't have known the quickening of his method. Selective blur more true than any fact of how long she lived. 43, mother to 6, statistic hit and run, no longer pacing this bruised round portrait. Daydreams my own mother when a bird flies against her story window, bang after bang, blind glass, and her crown angles open. So that was for my sister Sharon.
That really takes you on a long road, long and winding road, that one. Thank you. Got another? Handy?
And I just want to say that yes. Even if people find that it might be intimidating to think, oh, wow, that piece is so finished or so much like poetic or something, not to be intimidated, that all of us, it takes a long time to get to that place. And in the process, just that openness and willingness just to put words to the feeling and the place and the time and the experience.
It's worth doing, it's powerful, and everyone who can write words on paper can do it. I just took a screenwriting class, and the teacher said, quoted someone as saying, the first draft is to get it out, and the next draft is to get it right. So don't worry about getting it right, just get it out, get it out.
Hopefully there'll be plenty of drafts, exactly, because things evolve and our understanding of who we are evolves in the process of our work evolving. But I have many teachers to thank for giving me the courage to let that person, that artist inside me feel safe to express and to share.
I feel the same way. I have a list of people in my soul that have given me sort of permission along the way. And I guess that's one of the things we can do for people right now. If they want it, they can have it.
So this next piece, I sometimes perform as a performance piece. It's called The Basement. And it kind of chronicles some of the experiences that I had as an abused child. And so it can be scary. You can brace yourself if you like. But I dedicate this to Kate Millay, who wrote a book called The Basement about a child in Indiana who was experienced and was killed because of child abuse. So I'm grateful to have the gift to share my life. It's great to be here. The Midwest builds basements under their homes as automatically as the church breeds fanatics. Dungeon to the future, so magnificent that one prays to last and last and last and last in order to endure long enough to get out of here. The basement around me, within me, underneath me, over me, crawling through me, hears me, wants me, invites me, reaches that point on the end of my string and pulls me in. The basement of black and white tile, Barbies, game of dominoes, albino water bugs in my bottle cap collection. Perfect place to starve a preteen in Indiana. tie her up, beat her, burn cigarettes on her stomach, let her die while claiming to be her foster mother. A death so pointless at age 12 that my own childhood scars are fully recounted and dismissed in due respect.
Yeah. Wow, you can capture something that the news gives it to you, but you don't know what to do with it. But in this way, you can kind of take it in and know what to do with it.
It's great to know that your suffering is not alone. It's great to know that people do survive these things and people don't, and to know where a person is on that continuum, so that one can actually express gratitude and reclaim that essence of gratitude. That's our, really, it's our endowment, it's our birthright. And I think that, again, is a stage to want to turn the tables anytime, where it's still a reaction, it's still the other side of a coin, and there's still, you don't have that ultimate sense of integrity, that you're your own person and you're not just reacting.
So eventually you're free of the whole story, whole syndrome.
Exactly. You're not in the story anymore. You're free of the story. You see yourself as separate from a story.
And the poetry, writing it, expressing it, helps to emerge from that.
Exactly.
Do you have anything else you would like to say to the people before we leave right now?
Gosh, I just, I feel very grateful to be here, and I just really hope that people are inspired to express the smallest inkling of their own personal experience and joy, as well as sorrow, as an invitation to our common humanity and common passion to be here.
I think that's a very important thing to tell people. And that's why we're doing this right now. And that's what this Marination show is about too.
Great. I'm happy to
Everyday heroes and local treasures.
Exactly.
Thank you for being one of those. You're welcome.
Thank you.
San Francisco was jammed with fans celebrating the win of the San Francisco Giants in the World Series of 2010. The crowd was well-behaved, enthusiastic, and really full of children and families, as well as lots of the usual San Francisco characters.
What do you think?
I like being here. It feels like being part of some huge organism.
There were hundreds of thousands of people lining the streets down Montgomery to Market to the Civic Center. Everyone seemed to have a camera, both the crowd and the participants, all taking each other's pictures. Millions of pictures taken today. I hope some of them were good. I certainly had fun.
Hello and welcome. My name is Sharon, as you may know. I want to tell you about a book that I wrote, or collected more is the idea, that it was an amalgamation of 30 plus years of poetry of mine. And this is the book. It's called Shiny Objects. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about why it's called Shiny Objects. Basically, it's poetry and art. And unlike a lot of poetry books that are in the world now, it has color illustrations, and that is a story in itself. But the first thing I want to do is tell you a little bit about why it's called shiny objects. There was a guy once named Ringo Starr, part of the Beatles. I think he still exists. He wrote, one of the songs that he wrote, that's one of the Beatles classics, is Octopus's Garden. And one of the lines is, "I'd like to be under the sea in an octopus's garden in the shade." The reason he wrote about Octopus's Garden, it was said, is that when he was a child, he learned from an Italian fisherman how octopi, or octopuses, collect shiny objects from their ocean floor gardens. He would dream about being under the sea, where he would pick up shiny objects like octopuses do. So I, and maybe you, love collecting shiny objects. As a child, I loved going along on the beach and reaching down and finding things, and constantly finding things. And so I wrote about that in this intro to shiny objects to the book when I collected the book, and it's called Her Winter Count. There was a woman who counted her dreams. She still is. There are visiting privileges in her cell and sunbeam shafts of reprise. So here it is, her winter count, a trail of tracks across the snowy hourglass. Under naked feet, sands warm and cool, shift and drain through the bottleneck and vanish. And then they come round again to undulate over her Mobius Klein bottle curves, where the outside becomes the inside and the inside becomes the outside. Now, this woman's job has always been to wander sandy beaches, gathering iridescent shells for you, trying not to look like a beggar or feel like a thief, remembering to give thanks for the light that hits the water in playful cat slaps, planting warm kisses on her feathery tresses as she dares to eat a peach for Mira, who wanted one in Washington more than anything. Now, I wanted to do a book about shiny objects, so I didn't want to collect the poems and put them in chronological order or alphabetical order per se. I wanted to figure out what kinds of shiny objects there are, and then divide the book into natural segments that have to do with those things. So I had, I figured out what are shiny objects, and just the general list: brass rings, snow globes, game pieces, hood ornaments, crystal eggs, alabaster hearts, candlesticks, beadwork, satin quilts, lilac wine, rain pools, wind chimes. And I saw them as, well, they mean something. Like when I deal with brass rings and snow globes, that also to me means triangulations. Triangulation, it means finding your place in space. And so then I put in there poems about places, poems about an assisted living facility I worked in, poem about Los Angeles from traveling down there and the experience there, a poem about San Francisco, a poem about San Rafael, about protests, and about plants that only spring up after fire. So that poem is called Pyronarcogenesis. And okay, the second segment is called Game Pieces and Hood Ornaments, and that, the subtitle and the subtext of that is infractions, little crimes that I and maybe you have committed during our lives, and it's talking about interaction with society, interaction with our time, going through processes, going through problems, coming through. Okay, so that one, and on and on. So there's 6 sections. And then as a designer, I tried to figure out how to lay this out in a consistent way. It's not too wild. It's kind of conventional in a way, but there's a photograph of or scan of one of my art pieces across from each section, and then it goes like, and then there are other things that appear during the course of the book. So I'm just going to continue to read a little bit for you. Here's a poem about a place, and this is called Aquarium. At the aquarium on Crater Bay, the fronds switch thick and thin in ichthyan convolutions while my night's companion sways in the leaves of his magazine. Leopard sharks swim between tall trees no earthbound gravities allow. Broth and time suspend. Loud schools of stroller-pushing people-fish swarm the sands. Behind each face, a story. I see only scissor snips of legs, flashback to a near-drowned childhood, and a blind panic reach to grip the wavering legs fast sliding from my underwater grip. The people's legs moved away, the metal slide legs stayed, saved alive, but not by humankind. Saved to talk about it all someday. Now time floats majestically past, arresting egg dreams, smiling as it glides behind the fronds. Speeding parades and ceremonial diatribes, I reach again, this time to that elusive meditating fish, high-voltage eel who floats near bottom the morning after our mermaid night. Here at the edge of land and sea, we chipped out this sliver of time, he to try before you buy, like one of his horses. Take me out on the trail, see how I do. I to break a chastity-belted high-tech spell in the whirl of a wedless honeymoon. Less a question of love than therapeutic intentionality. The water undulates behind glass panes, the crowd croons backup noise, and I exist to provide a space frame surround, flicking innocently gleaming scales in forbidden and dangerous waters. Overhead, the tide pool exhibitions fill and drain away. That's Aquarium. Then another section from Shiny Objects is called Candlesticks and Beadwork, and that addresses my Judaic background and also my decade and more that I spent with the Native American people. And so the poems don't mush those two traditions together, and except for a few cases. Circling inward. This one's called Highest Uncommon Denomination. Circling inward to the place where it all began, heartland of woman-man, bracelet of rainbow band on the ancient wrist of this home sweet medicine land. I've seen the sand run backwards in the glass, turn from desert dust to sweetgrass in your hand. I see you, what they call you, what you are, what you call them, the way you see them. If it's us and them and I'm one of them, then tell me true. How come when I say us, you're in there too? The truth is on our shoulders, yours and ours, who wear all shades of gray that you call white, who worship textbooks written by racists, inked with sincere infallibility. And so here it is, inches apart we stand, trying to deduce the terrain through binoculars, missing the sunlight singing through each other's eyes. We here are all children of sweet medicine land, children of the blind and the seeing, boat people, land people, sitting in iron door boxes in paradise, afraid to bask in the glow of the four-color circle this place can be, trapped in the too common denominator of denied humanity. So, a little more about Shiny Objects. Even though it is arranged in subject matter and then alphabetically, title-wise, inside each subject matter section, I have at the end, for those who are curious or those who are of a mind, to like footnotes and such. I have a reverse chronology, so of both the images and the poems, because as I would write things, I'd put the date on them, and if somebody was kind of a muse to me that inspired me, I would put who inspired me. So a lot of the things on here I put who inspired me, but not their whole name. Giant dingbat made of little dingbats from a book that I made that was letterpress. So to take us out, I will read this and see how far I get. Mr. Mayor, while I am aware of factors and facets that contribute to a certain formality, informality, and reality, unreality, and freedom, constriction, eggshell dance within those walls, he's unpredictable and hard to reach and unforgettable and impossible and dear. I remain very fond of our Mr. Mayor and the way he chooses to live and what I see as his vision and the way he often carries his genius to good ends. But since I see he sees me and then deliberately does not and does not care how I feel about that, I hereby proclaim I am moving on from my metaphysical, metapolitical fascination with Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thank you for seeing shiny objects in its various permutations. Here's an earlier one, and a newer one, and a black and white one, and a color one. And I'm glad that I discovered that I could do the things in color for the same price. That was exciting. Thank you for watching.